Welcome. I'm Natalie Marsh. Real estate is all about relationships, and I'm here to help you navigate the journey. Whether you're a homeowner, buyer, seller, or simply love the topic of real estate, this podcast is for you. In each episode, I'll sit down with a friend and industry expert to bring you valuable insights on everything about homes. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's talk, learn, and grow together. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining again. I have with me today Ken Hynes. Ken is a home inspector in the New Hampshire area. And actually, Ken, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? And are you just in New Hampshire or are you in other areas too?
I am in New Hampshire and Southern Maine. All Views Home Inspection was established in 2002, and we focus in on helping two different types of inspections. Pre-inspections for potential people who want to sell their house and want to get it up and ready for the market, and for people that are interested in actually buying a house.
I'm sure you have seen it all. And I know that every person that contracts with you is hoping that they're going to get a clean bill of, home ownership.
They are.
Give me one or two stories of the things that have even surprised you on what you found.
So I'll give you an example. So 2 weeks ago, we went out to Pittsfield to this house that was not that old. I would say roughly about 30 years old. It was a 3 to 4 bedroom ranch. It had a basement, two bathrooms, a full bath and a half a bath, a big kitchen and living room and eating area. It looked really nice. It was white vinyl siding, white vinyl windows. The roof had a lot of snow on it, but they said the roof was only 7 or 8 years old. Okay. So when the young couple showed up, I had got there a little bit early. I did me outside first, and then I walked them around and showed them some items on the outside. And then we went inside. And when I took them down to the basement, then I had to show them some things that they didn't see during the open house, that there was 4 cracks in the foundation. 2 of them were significant. They had water stains near the cracks. The bulkhead had no basement entry door, so cold air blowing into the basement, kicking the heat on constantly. The septic company that we had meet us out the day inspection called us over and told us that the septic was on the verge of failing. In the attic, we did find that there was areas of the plywood that had staining that we had to put down, possible mold present, but not confirmed. So we recommend an environmental company come out and address that. And we said, gee, they really should have looked up in the attic before they put the newer roof on, because the staining we saw took probably years to get that way. So you could see that the expression on their face went from excited when they showed up for the inspection, and they're showing me how nice the house looked inside. Now, when we were in the foundation doing some investigating, we moved some insulation away from the floor joist, and it was soaking wet. So we realized that there was water leaking in from the back wall somewhere in the house, either seeping through the window that was maybe not properly installed, or the vinyl siding. And to see how big it was, I told them the only way you're going to know how bad it is to open it up. As we left, it was that their agent thanked us, and they were going to sit there with them for a while and talk about it. It was an empty house. The flippers, the no listing agent or anything. It was just the agent, the young couple, and their baby. And then I left. But they had a lot to talk about, because now, do they want to inherit if the people who are flipping the house don't want to fix those things, or at least some of those things? Even if he said I'd fix the cracks in the foundation, but the wet wall in the back, he might say I'm not fixing anything. It's depending. Are they willing, with that list of things we gave them, willing to still take that house on? And because once they sign on the dotted line, they've inherited all those issues that come with the house. Some of those issues were pretty big. But septic alone, you're maybe looking at between $15,000 and $20,000. And if they offered, which I think they did, 25 or 30,000 over asking price, they certainly weren't prepared to throw another 15,000 into the mix.
Nobody wants to put out extra money if they don't have to. But I think that, that story alone is just validation that don't go into such a big purchase without being fully informed. And having
Right.
an expert like yourself help guide them to say, look, here's got a lot of decisions to make here.
Right.
So working as a team together with the agent, I'm sure that, everybody was communicating on here's the direction we
Yeah.
need to go. I hope for them they made the decision that's going to be a long-term one that's going to benefit them. And that could be walking away.
Right. It's hard because they had 45 minutes to walk through. That was their time slot for the open house from Friday to Sunday. And it's hard because that's it. They're walking in the front door and they see beautiful new flooring and new cabinets and new appliances. They're thinking, we don't have to do anything. This looks nice. What are we not seeing here? What else could be going on with this house? And they got the winning bid. I would tell them to, in all fairness, give them an opportunity. Maybe they weren't aware of this, and maybe they'll get right up and address some of these issues. Maybe not all of them. See what they will do. See, maybe they will give you some money toward the septic and or make sure that they open up the back wall and see what's causing that water intrusion. And then if they take care of those two things, that maybe you'll accept the other couple of things that we found. But then again, that's where you guys come in. You guys are the negotiators. I could tell that their agent was disappointed too. I'm sure she was working really hard because they did tell me several times they've been looking for a while, and they finally found one house that they really both liked. So now she has to, if it's going to happen or not.
Well, I
It's
think
been
the other thing too is that once they have that information on that home inspection, and there's been like, hey, here's the list. Your septic's going to fail. You've got water intrusion. There's this, that, and the other thing. That's a material defect on the house, meaning that's something that they cannot hide from anybody. They have to
yeah,
work on that. They have to disclose it.
right. Right. And so that's what I kind of said to them. Like I said, your realtor is probably going to say this to you. Now they have to disclose it. I says, because if all the people who went through this house, you were the winning bid. There's other people. There might have been a few people that noticed some of the things, but I doubt they noticed all of them. I'll tell you one thing. Nobody knew about the septic.
Yeah.
I said, so, that's $15,000 to $20,000. And all of a sudden, there's got to be some negotiating here. I'm curious to find out, and I will find out at some point if what they decided to do. And they were already trying to make some sacrifices too, because they were willing to travel a little bit to their jobs if they could get the house. So they had already adjusted in their mind that, okay, we might have to commute a little bit, but we'll be homeowners and it's going to be worth it. Now all of a sudden it's not looking as appealing as it was.
Well, it's, hopefully for them, they made the decision that's going to work best for them, whether it's this house or another one.
Right, right. And it's not, as an inspector, it's not our job to tell them to buy the house or not. They'll say it to us all the time. Would you let your daughter buy this house? And I say, I can't answer that. You have to sit down with your broker and discuss everything. You have to even discuss if you have kids, if it's the school system you want them in. Is the commute comfortable enough that it's not too far for you to go back and forth every day to work? You have to put all that into perspective.
Absolutely.
Because I've had people say, I need you to come do another inspection. We're moving out of the house you inspected for us a few years ago. And I'll say, why? And they'll say, the commute's just too much for us. They tried it and they just didn't like it. So everything has to be, the real estate agent, that's when they have to sit down and really talk about everything, because every aspect of that is going to affect your life. Don't know what your risk tolerance is. Some people you show things to that are going to cost them money to fix, and they take it in stride. They go, okay, I can deal with that. Other buyers, you show them the smallest thing and they get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That's why the brokers really have to sit them down and try to, find out what they really think and what's going through their mind, what they're willing to accept and what they're not willing to accept. Unfortunately, with that particular house, it wasn't just the one thing. Sometimes I've even asked real estate agents if I could step into their backyard for a minute, and they'll look at me hesitantly and I'll say, just let me talk for a minute and I'll go look. And I know you've been looking for a while. I've done 2 or 3 inspections for you. This house you really like, the septic's failing. It's 15,000. Or maybe you could get the agents to talk to the seller and maybe split the difference. Because I'd hate, and they'd look at it and say, I'd hate to see you lose this house over $7,000 or $8,000 in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes I'll see realtors and they'll give me like, thank you, like trying to hold the deal together. Like, can we still make this work? Maybe the guy will, have the contractor come out and figure out where that water's coming in, and he'll give you part of the money for the septic. And then everything else that was wrong, you can take care of it over time. I try to work, especially if I've been working with customers, which I have over in my career several times, 3 and 4 houses before they buy one. And that can get expensive to pay for a home inspection. around $1,000 every time
Yeah.
you call the inspector up. And young couples, they don't have $1,000 just to throw down the drain. I try to get into their head a little bit and, see where they're at. You know what's out there. Sometimes it does pay off. Sometimes it can be negotiated. And then everybody's happy.
And I think that what you're saying, as we're working as a team together, that we each have our areas of expertise, but sometimes
Correct.
hearing it from another voice that's part of that team to say it's going to be okay. And to your point around, do you want to give something up for just a small dollar amount where in the long run this could really be adding value to your home?
Right.
And then it goes both ways.
And I share this story a lot too. My own son, one of my sons, bought a 30-year-old split level about 7 or 8 years ago in Manchester. It had new vinyl siding, it had vinyl windows. The owner was there for 14 years. They didn't know how old the roof was, and we knew that it was starting to fail. But the inside of the house is where they put all their attention to. Beautiful kitchen, beautiful bathrooms, beautiful woodwork inside. They a lot of pride inside the house, and it was gorgeous inside. And my son hesitated, and he said, "Dad, a roof though?" And I said to him, "Chris, I'd hate to see you lose this house over a roof."
I
I
love
said,
that.
"It's got to be replaced. It doesn't replace tomorrow, but it's got to be replaced." I said, "Because what about if it had a brand new roof on it, but the siding was original? And what about if you walked in the house and the kitchen and bathrooms were the age of the house, 30 years old, outdated? You don't have any of that. This is turnkey." I said, "The people lived there. They put in high-end cabinets, high-end counters, nice appliances, new flooring. You have a yard and plus proximity. My daughter-in-law, your wife, works at the hospital a mile away. You at the time worked on South Willow Street, a mile away. Here, very close down the street to drop the two little kids off. Take all that into reason. Versus 2 weeks ago, had me look at a house, and it was a beautiful drive out there in the fall. But what about when the hospital calls you in the middle of a snowstorm?
Right.
And if it's 40-minute ride now, today, what is it in the wintertime?" They thought about it. And they said, "Yeah, we don't want to deal with that." She ended up buying the house and putting a new roof on a few months later. And they're happy as anything there. She said, "You like more things in this house than any of the houses you looked at. So it needs a roof. Roof is maintenance. Every house at some point is going to need a new roof. Unfortunately, yours needs one pretty soon."
Well, Ken, I want to thank you for taking the time out today on this, and it was great talking to you. I'm sure that we'll be working again together real soon. Thanks so much.
You're more than welcome.